My next guest sat next to me on Saturday Night Live for many years doing The Big Picture and often fondled my knee. He is a political satirist of the first rank, a very funny man. Hey, Whitney Brown. Whitney!
Thank you. I was watching the State of the Union last night, and boy, this country's in a hell of a mess. You know, I wouldn't mind paying my taxes if I felt like I was getting something for them. In Europe, you pay taxes, you get child care, subsidized health care, pension. What do we get for our tax money? A big pile of dead Arabs. Now, what am I going to do with the big pile of dead Arabs? You know, in Japan, they have smart students. We have smart bombs. And I personally worry about a country where the bombs are smarter than the high school graduates. Because, I mean, you have to admit, at least the bombs could find Iraq on a world map. You know, we have 25 million illiterates in the country. I read that in USA Today. Well, I'll tell you the truth, I didn't actually read it, but there was a stick figure with a little diploma's hat, a graduation hat on, pointing to a pie chart. And I think to myself, what are those people going to do in life? In Japan, if you can't read or write, they put you to work translating VCR instructions into English. Here, they end up giving you directions at gas stations, wasting millions of gallons of gasoline. And how many of these illiterates are going to sometime in their lives defrost their refrigerators with a sharp object? Because they can't read that little sign, you know, thereby wasting millions of cubic feet of chlorofluorocarbons into the atmosphere to chew up the ozone layer. I don't know. Then I think about another country, our former enemy, no longer our enemy, the Soviet Union. Just signed up to send them another $600 million, and we have no idea what's going to happen over there. The only thing we know for sure is that Tom Clancy's got a bad case of writer's block. And yet still, what a golden moment in history for collectors of oversized Bolshevik hero statues. This really is their time. Nevertheless, I think to myself, how ironic that the fatal flaw in communism would turn out to be that there's no money in it. Because they don't have money, they have this thing called rubles. And if you think it's hard, get rid of Canadian quarters. I also wonder about the future of some of these newly independent countries, like, well, there's Moldavia. I don't know if you've ever heard of this country, but they announced their independence with a big fanfare with the stated intention of someday rejoining Romania, which they border. And I think here's a people with high aspirations. You know, reach for the golden ring, people. Anyway, I think the problem with our electoral process, because it's ironic to me that just when the Soviet Union's moving to a multi-party system, we are settling into a single-party system. Because let's face it, the Democrats don't have a shot in hell. They really don't. And I think the problem is New Hampshire. You know, every election they get first cut of our candidates. Well, who died and made them kingmakers? You know, my apartment building in Manhattan could vote as a block and cancel out their entire electorate. And you see the president there, you know, it's the Granite State, this Norman Rockwell classic Americana image, and I think to myself, the small mammals by the side of the road state might be a little bit more apt, because they have this motto, live free or die, on their license plates. And I wonder how sincere that is when you consider that the license plates are made in prison. And although the real problem watching the campaign unfold in New Hampshire is that these people are mourning people. And I don't think it's safe, personally, to let the future leaders of the free world be picked by mourning people. You know, it's a known fact, if you've ever lived with one, anyway, it's a known fact that every major dictator in history was a mourning person. And then the president, I see him in Japan, and that made me laugh, because the whole premise of that trip is that they're not playing fair. You know, we're castigating them for making cars like their jobs depend on it. And the premise of the trip was our trade deficit is caused because the average Tokyoite is dying to trade in his Honda if he could just somehow get his hands on a Chevette. But they're trying to sell cars in Japan, American cars. I don't think we're ever going to make things well enough to please the Japanese, but I don't think that's the problem anyway. We never sold Japan anything in my short life. problem is not that we don't make things well enough to sell to the Japanese. The problem is we don't make things well enough for ourselves to buy. You know, Chrysler could crack the American market. That's where the money is. And that is why the opening up of Eastern Europe is so exciting to me, because we do make things well enough to sell to Eastern Europe. You know, provided we give them the money first. Anyway, when you think about the trade deficit, it's not cars, it's pot. You know, here, we're going to check that trade deficit with Colombia. I know it's a small bill, so it's very difficult, but if we could grow pot, we could sell it to the Japanese, and then the quality of their merchandise would go down to match ours.
Hey, Whitney, forget Columbia. It's the District of Columbia.
Hey, I saw you on TV last week.
Hey, what was I doing?
You had Tom Hanks on, you had your own show and everything. It was really great.
Yeah.
So I picked up one of your napkins, Dennis Miller, the logo. I was just filling in the words, see, on the logo there. It's great,
We
man.
got to
It's
get it to
puzzle.
the camera. You see that? You
The
see
Dennis
that?
Miller logo puzzle combination.
Whitney, you got me in a
Send
bit I
them.
want to get out of here. Well, Whitney's circling them off. It's like jumble. Forget it. We'll take a commercial. We'll be right back. Whitney Brown. Back with Whitney Brown. Andy, thank you. Now, Whitney, you've put together a book of your big pictures, which I always thought was some of the best political commentary in this country, but I love the bio notes in the back. You're so non-effusive. Hitchhiking his way from dead concert to dead concert, trying to see through his hair, A. Whitney Brown made his way to New York, where he now lives. I think that sums up... Well, I've done showbiz with you for years. You've always been one of the least showbizy people I know, but one of the funniest.
Thank you very
I knew
much.
you'd like that. Has it always been your approach?
Yeah, I don't know.
You just never bought in completely, did
No,
you?
I tried, but I just find myself unable to get wrapped up in the tinsel and the glitter of the whole thing.
Yeah?
I don't know. I guess it's my background.
You're too smart sometimes, aren't
Never
you?
finished high school, Dennis.
Yeah, but what's that have to do with
I
it,
know.
you know?
It's true. I'm going for my
I
GED,
didn't-
though, soon.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't buy books the last 2 years, and, okay, you know a little bit about us.
A little too much, maybe.
Yeah. Now, how's your daughter doing? I know that
Oh,
matters.
man,
to you. Your
that's-
daughter and your farm and
Hi,
all that?
Serena. She had her birthday this month.
Oh, yeah? How old?
13 years old. And, God, time goes by so fast, you know. I was remembering the first time that she learned how to lie. You know, and it's so wonderful to be with your child when they discover something that you know they're going to use for the rest of their life. And I remember I was driving her home from childcare one day, and she turned to me. She said, "Daddy, I think we better stop now and get some ice cream." That's how she used to talk. And I said, "Honey, you know we can't do that because your mother doesn't like you to eat before we get home." She said, "Yeah, I know. But I got an idea. Let's not tell her." You know, it's just like she was the first one in the world to ever think of it. I was so proud. And, so I turned to her and I said, "All right, sweetheart, we'll stop and we'll get some ice cream. And after that, we're going to stop and see an old girlfriend of mine." But just look back. Boy, they grow up fast. How's your daughter, Dennis?
I have a little son.
Son, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
son. He
But it's nice to know you care.
sorry.
Hey, do you miss the show
You
at
have a
all?
wife, though, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
have a
that's
wife.
right.
And you don't, do you?
No, I don't, as a matter of fact.
Do you miss the show?
No, not a bit.
No?
No. Sometimes, though, I just stay up for 3 days on Tuesday, you know, and flog myself, and then it's rough.
So things haven't changed.
No, I find myself still, you know, we used to write the show on Tuesday nights, you know, and I find myself still being unable to sleep. I wake up in the middle of Tuesday night going, I know something I should be doing, but
It's the hour
I'm
of the wolf.
overdue for something, you know.
Whit, good to see you, buddy.
Oh, Dennis,
Always
man,
a
it's
pleasure,
good to
my
see
friend.
you.
Whitney Brown, folks. We'll be right back after this.